In today's Leeds news, Connor Roberts signs, Sinisterra Bournemouth permanent move, McGurk joins Swindon, Poveda off to Wednesday, and links that didn't happen. Morning folks, Ger here on the 2nd of February, day after the deadline day, and the transfer window smashed itself shut last night, as they say. Quite enough window for Leeds, sensible window in my opinion. I know people will disagree with me. I think it was a smart window. I don't think we need to go mad in this window. Nobody else has. To put the window in context, there was £92 million spent in the Premier League in total in this window. You go back 12 months ago and Chelsea spent more than £92 million on Enzo Fernandez alone, which puts the whole thing kind of in context a little bit. The teeth of financial fair play are starting to show. And unlike some other shows, I'm not going to be recommending that Leeds should have breached financial fair play in order to get promoted this year. It's not a smart move. And given our history with finances, I'm glad we're not mucking about. But we'll get into this. We'll talk about a few incomings and a few exits and what's going on there at the club. We'll start off with Connor Roberts. And late last night, Leeds United confirmed with an initial green tick, followed then by a list of Welsh players that have played for Leeds and the heading in Welsh of "Don't go to bed just yet." Love your work, Wilson. Then followed up by the video from Connor Roberts just after 11 o'clock. So Connor Roberts signed late last night. Roberts had been linked with Leeds United for the entire window and closes the door on what is a problem position for Leeds United at right back, with Luke Ayling going out on loan, Jed Spence's loan move not working out, and Archie Gray having to do deputising work in that position, which I think he's done a fantastic job at right back. And the 28-year-old will add experience to a very, very young Leeds United side. He hasn't had a huge amount of minutes in the Premier League, but I think he's played 14 games this season in total between subs appearances and everything else. He did play the last half an hour against Manchester City the other night as well, so he's not coming into Leeds with no games at all under his belt. He has been involved, just not starting a huge amount of games. The player himself could make his debut tonight against Bristol City and will be available for the FA Cup game against Plymouth as well, as he is not cup tied apparently. He did talk a bit about his signing, and he said that it is a straight loan move. There's no option or obligation to buy the player. However, he did say that this is a huge opportunity for him to prove his worth and to force a permanent move for Leeds in summer. Good performances like Joe Rodon's been putting in makes it easy for Leeds to make a decision in that area for him as well. He'll wear the number 33 shirt and will stay here until the remainder of the season and give Leeds cover in a position that we didn't have a whole lot for. Now, if you look across the squad, I know some people aren't overly happy with the window, but I don't believe we're playing Football Manager or FIFA here. I think Leeds need to be smart and sensible what they needed to do. They've got cover in the positions now. In the right back position, you've got Archie Gray can play there, Connor Roberts can play there, Sam Byram can play there as well. Centre backs, you've got Joe Rodon on centre right back, you've got Charlie Creswell centre right back, you've got Liam Cooper and Pascal Struck on the left hand side of centre back, you've got Ethan Ampadu can do a job in there as well. Sam Byram also can play on the right hand side. Left hand side, you've got Byram and Firpo, which I know there was a risk about injuries there as well, but Connor Roberts can also play on the left and has played on the left as well, so there's that one. And then in the midfield, you've got Archie, Gruev, Ampadu and Kamara. You've plenty covered there. Only position I think we're probably a bit light in was number 10 position. Would have seen somebody come in there, but it's very hard to see anybody coming in who's going to push Jorginho Rutter out of the side at the moment. And for what's left in the season, is anybody going to gamble on sitting on the bench for the rest of the season? My take on this is simple. If the players that Leeds were looking at coming in weren't going to play or make the squad stronger, then there was absolutely no point in bringing them in. Pretty much nobody else has moved. Leicester's move for Sensei last night collapsed, so they brought in no new players in this window at all and lost one. If you look at Southampton, they have brought in David Brooks, but they did lose Alcaraz. And if you look at Ipswich, they have brought in a couple of striking options from lower divisions, and we'll wait to see if they actually pan out to be good signings. They could be very, very shrewd signings. But they have injuries up front as well, so they're filling gaps that are already in existence. So it's been a pretty quiet window across the board. Leeds did have a couple of exits last night. We'll talk about one potential exit that hasn't happened yet but could happen now, and that's Luis Sinisterra. And according to local journalists, Luis Sinisterra's loan move at Bournemouth could become a permanent move in the next couple of weeks. Bournemouth are keen to turn the loan into a full move now that Sinisterra is beginning to start regular matches for Bournemouth. No injuries just yet for the player as well. Sinisterra is out of favour at Leeds United after threatening legal action against the club in order to force a move away, similar to what Tyler Adams did when he was at Leeds United as well. Angus Kinnear, when he was speaking on the Square Ball podcast earlier this year, said that the player wasn't on the club's Christmas card list, which is everything you need to say here. But he could probably say about the relationship that's there with the players, very much broken down. So we could be seeing the end of Luis Sinisterra's time at Leeds United on a permanent basis, and I don't think anybody will really have a problem with that, considering. Moving on then, a surprise one late last night. Sean McGurk's time at Leeds United has come to an end. The 20-year-old has joined Swindon Town on a permanent deal and will leave Leeds United. McGurk didn't have any senior appearances in the Leeds team during his time at Leeds, but he was very, very important in the Leeds under-23 and under-21 sides in their promotion campaign specifically last year, and was having a very, very strong first half of his season this year as a number 10. It looks like Leeds are clearing the decks behind the scenes. The players are not going to be offered new contracts at the end of the season look like they've been moved out. There's a rebuild happening there. McGurk was out of contract at the end of the season, falls into the same bracket as Leo Helde. If they're not going to be playing in the team, if they're around the first team squad a bit and they're not really pushing to get into Daniel Farke's plans, then there's no point in having them. They are aging out of the under-21 system this year, so they won't be able to play in that team next year. And if they're not going to be the first team squad, they're just sitting around doing nothing. So Farke doesn't want that, wants a small squad. It's a shame. I really do like Sean McGurk. I think he's a hard working player. He seems to be a model pro. He's an enjoyable player to watch playing. I wish him nothing but success when he goes to Swindon. He's a good player, a good lad, and I'm sure he'll do really, really well down there. He drops down to League 2. I'm sure he'll get his feet pretty quickly. And as I said, he was out of contract in the summer, and Leeds seem to making a clear decision of who's going to be here next year if we go to the Premier Division and who's not. Speaking of players that won't be here next year as well, Ian Poveda's time at Leeds United looks like it's come to an end as well. He has signed for Sheffield Wednesday on loan until the end of the season. He is also out of contract in the summer as well. And another player that Leeds look like they will be moving on without. Poveda hasn't really done a huge amount for Leeds United in his time at Leeds. A couple of loan spells out as well with Blackpool, Blackburn. And there was interest last night from Sheffield Wednesday, Birmingham City and Blackburn as well. As I said, he already had a spell at Blackburn. Tony Mowbray was the manager then. Tony Mowbray now the manager of Birmingham City, and did have a little look at him. Mowbray did like him, but he has ultimately gone on loan to Sheffield Wednesday. There was talk at one point that this was going to be a 2.5-year deal and a permanent move. It turns out by the end to be a loan move to the end of the season, and there could be some financial jiggery pokery going on there with Leeds, because apparently his deal in the deal that we signed him from Man City, there was a sell-on clause in that deal. By Leeds getting a loan fee instead and letting the player go out on loan at the end of the season, it gets a bit of money back, but Leeds don't have to pay anything to Manchester City. Then the player will be out of contract in the summer and will move on from his time at Leeds. Again, put McGurk and Poveda and Helde all into that bracket. You look at Liam Cooper, Luke Ayling as well, Lewis Bate as well. Leeds are looking at a situation where if these players are not going to be involved next season to go back to the Premier League, there is no point in keeping them around the club. Move them on. We have a very good under-18 side who are pushing through into under-21s for next year. There will be a full rebuild there. There's no relegation in the new Premier League under-21 system. So if ever there was a time to do this, it's probably now, because there's no real punishments for doing that. So there is a bit of a rebuild. I feel sorry for Scott Gardner and the team that he has there, but he did have the under-18s last year and most of this year, so he'll bring that team through, I'm sure, as well. And Leeds will look to probably add a couple of players to that squad there as well. So don't be surprised to see some more young players who are aging out of the under-21 system move away from the club this year, and unfortunately have not made the market. Poveda, another player that I like. I find him a very exciting player, but he just didn't do enough at Leeds to really make his mark. People will say the squad is lighter. A lot of these players, none of them were involved. Helde wasn't kicking a ball for Leeds, wasn't in the matchday squads. Luke Ayling hadn't been in the last 4 matchday squads before Leeds gave him a cup run before they said goodbye to him. Poveda's been on the bench, had a handful of minutes here and there, but might free up some space for somebody else. These players weren't playing. They weren't in the matchday squad, so what's the point in stockpiling players who we're not going to use, just taking wages away from the club and costing us money, so we can move them on. It's a shame. Nice lads, good players. I wish them all nothing but success in the future, but I believe Leeds need to be smart and sensible. I think this has been a very smart and sensible window. We've got the position sorted that we need to. We've got a very good right back in Conor Roberts coming in, which I think makes us better, and a frees up Archie Gray to move back into the middle of the park as well, and gives us options across the park in lots of different areas now. So Leeds, I think, are well stacked. We don't need loads of players, and we don't need to be signing players for the fun. Moving on to players and links that came up with Leeds yesterday that have now moved on to other places, or in this case not moved on anywhere. We'll start off with Manuel Benson, and I said this a couple of weeks ago when he was mentioned initially. The exclusive came from Football Insider and then Sasha Tavalieri that Benson was going to Leeds. Then it was exclusive, he was going to Southampton. Yesterday he was off to Leeds, Hull and Middlesbrough. Manuel Benson ended up going nowhere. I kind of felt that way a couple of weeks ago. I think I said it. So Manuel Benson stayed put. There's a bit of revisionism happening now with some of the journalists who did say that he was going off, to say that there was a late rejection by the player to Leeds. But if you listen to what they'd said earlier this month, Leeds were in exclusive talks with the player weeks ago. Now it appears Leeds never spoke to the player until last night. If they did at all, I don't believe Leeds spoke to the player at all. I'm sure we'll get more information on that, but that didn't happen. And the player went nowhere. Surprise, surprise. Another player, Paul Dummett, was mentioned yesterday from Newcastle. Another Welsh player not playing a huge amount of football, came out of nowhere yesterday and went nowhere. The player hasn't moved, and Leeds didn't really have any interest in the player. I don't think they even looked at him as a rumour. I think it's because he was Welsh. Personally, we've got 4 Welsh players now, so why not throw another into the mix? And then the other one was Joe Worrell. He was linked with Leeds for the last week or so. Looks like he hasn't going to go anywhere. I'd say Leeds had a look at Worrell in the situation where they looked at maybe moving Charlie Creswell on. When Creswell decided to stay and Farke was happy to keep Creswell, that one kind of went away. We plenty of players in those positions that we don't need to add more to that as well. And ultimately, Joe Worrell's move to Sheffield United fell apart late last night, and the player went nowhere in the end as well. So a lot of players that were linked with Leeds over the last couple of weeks didn't go anywhere. Some players did, went to clubs lower down the Championship, as I said before. Teams around us haven't really made massive moves either in this window. Hull City have made the biggest move in terms of bringing in players, and if that doesn't work out, if they don't get promoted, they could be in serious trouble with financial fair play next year. So we'll wait and see. Leeds have Bristol City tonight. Fingers crossed for 3 points. We'll go second if we get 3 points tonight. Have a cracking day, and I'll see you on Monday for more Leeds news. See you. Bye.